This week, making greener vans from the ground up, fixing phones that have hit the ground, and I think you got something on your face. Another day, another mission for Click's ever so slightly secret agent 00. My goodness, it's Laura Lewington. Greetings, Elle.
Oh, sorry I'm late. There was a queue.
He does tend to get in the way, doesn't he? Hey, nice wheels, though.
Thanks. The one problem is that I've borrowed this car and I've got it rather dirty. Have you got that eco-friendly spray thing that I could borrow, please?
Yes.
Think of all that water that you usually use. Well, this nano solution cleans, waxes and polishes in one go. Does need a bit of elbow grease.
Admittedly, the car wasn't that dirty to start with, so it may have been a less pleasant job if there was lots to scrub off. Around 2 to 3 litres of nano solution are needed per vehicle, as opposed to over 50 litres of water by a car wash. The kit isn't available to buy though, it's used by the Dropless service. And it may look pretty time consuming, but apparently it only takes them 30 minutes to an hour to do the outside of a car. You book a visit via its app and someone turns up at your door and cleans your car for you.
What, anywhere in the UK?
No, it's currently only in a few cities, including London, Manchester and Bristol. And it is a lot pricier than getting one of your kids to do it for a bit of pocket money.
Very useful, especially when there's no time to dry.
OK,
Shall I move on?
please.
Right, let me show you something else that cleans without using too much water. So this is the air, because it's for cleaning things that you air. Now all I need is something to clean. Well, here's something I stained earlier. And the idea is that you just put the dirty bit on this special backing mat on any hard surface, and then you just blast it with water, air and detergents, and in theory, the stain should go. Now, the company says that 90% of the clothes that we wash don't actually need to be put in the washing machine in the first place.
Really?
Apparently so. Instead, wear can be used to refresh lightly worn clothes or deep clean delicates and avoid wasting water.
OK, so is it better than just a bit of stain remover and washing something off in the sink?
Not sure. Maybe the clothes don't get as wet, although my shirt did.
You realise that this does cost half the price of an actual washing machine.
Yeah, there is that too. But at least I got a nice clean shirt out of it, so you can take me for a ride in your nice car now.
We'll see.
These ideas may have some impact on our green credentials, but to really make a difference, we probably need to be thinking about changing our transport.
Yeah, in the UK, a quarter of our emissions come from the transport industry alone. Delivery vans in particular can do hundreds of journeys every day. Well, Dan Simmons has been to see one British motor company that you've probably never heard of, but which is both making vans greener and making vans greener.
Vans need to be cost-effective, reliably always on the road and able to carry a lot of weight, so it's perhaps no surprise that the vast majority are still diesel or petrol powered. Now, a British company hasn't just ripped out the engine and added some batteries, it's redesigned the van from scratch with some surprising results.
Say hello to an all-new electric option, which I think looks a bit like it's from the future. And that's because, well, it is. There are currently none of these vans driving on the roads, but the company who makes it plans to take over the world. And the name of this new arrival?
Don't worry, I'd not heard much about them either. It's all been a bit hush-hush.
We have 3 vehicles which are currently in development. We have the Arrival bus, the Arrival van, and the Arrival car. We've been working on this for about 5 years now, and we are really excited to be bringing these vehicles into production within the next few months.
I've come to the company's huge R&D centre in Banbury in Oxfordshire. It's so new you'd probably be able to smell the paint, if they'd used any. One of the first things they changed was the panels the van's made out of. Steel isn't in sight, the frame is lighter aluminium to save weight, and the design team created these moulded thermoplastic composite panels wrapped around fiberglass cloth that not only save weight but turn out to be pretty tough too.
Standard metal van. Oh, you've got a dent in there, you're going to have to take that in. Bit of body work needed. This is the thermoplastic composite. Hardly a scratch. No? I think you're good to go.
It's not painted, so it's not like you have a scratch and even the shine is gone and you've got to kind of smooth it out, sand it out, fill it, you know, whatever the process is, spray paint it. It's just solid all the way through.
The panels are cut to shape from the material that's much easier to recycle than steel.
That process has some offcuts, and those offcuts could be wasted, but we're not wasting any of them. We're going to grind them down and allow them to be reused in other products in the vehicle or in other industries. They're worth something and they're valuable.
Because the vehicles are made in a modular way, they can carry as many batteries as they need for their expected journeys, avoiding any extra weight. Touch-free door openings lead us inside. The cabin feels spacious and minimalist, with a multi-purpose panel feeding back information from cameras, sensors, and what's left to deliver on board.
So we've achieved more volume by getting the floor much closer down to the ground, the chassis height's much lower. So effectively we have 20% more cargo volume on the same length of a vehicle compared to a diesel vehicle or any other electric vehicle.
To further minimise maintenance times, parts of the car needed to be checked and refilled frequently are all under an easily accessible flap. It's part of a keep it simple and keep it on the road ethos.
We're designing these vehicles right from the outset with servicing in mind. How can we ensure that components can be accessed, they can be either repaired or replaced very easily without disrupting or dismantling the vehicle itself?
Arrival may have not sold a working model yet, but for a British motor company, they're doing rather well. The first big order is in. UPS wants 10,000.
That's more vehicles than British car makers Aston Martin, Lotus and Morgan make in a year together. And that's before one has hit the road. If you want one, well, you're going to have to wait about 2 years.
They've already started making buses that are lighter and easier to clean, which should be on the roads later this year, and signed a deal with ride-hailing firm Uber to build cars for their drivers from 2023. One of the biggest changes Arrival brings is the way these vehicles are made. Just up the road in Bicester, the company's latest micro-factory is taking shape inside an empty warehouse. Rather than a single fixed production line with heavy plant machinery, modular cells will each do a specific but reprogrammable job. Cutting, moulding, assembling, before those parts are shuttled around to whichever is the next phase for that design.
Now, to get things from one cell to another, they're going to use these Wemos. This one's called 007, funnily enough, and it'll take parts between those various cells to provide them with the components they need to build the vehicle.
It's the opposite approach of how car companies like Tesla are doing it, with huge gigafactories that provide all the cars for a continent. Microfactories can be placed anywhere there's demand, creating local jobs, allowing fine-tuning of models for each market, and skipping the importing, shipping, or long delivery drives.
We can put a microfactory up in about 6 months. We can take kind of existing buildings, big sheds that you see along the motorway, but 6 months is really absolutely unheard of, I think, in OEM manufacturing.
And the company is also looking ahead to an automated future, already trialling and testing a fully automated van depot without drivers at all. The UK government has funded the project, which it hopes will one day become a big UK tech export.
We are right now on the cusp of going into the production of 2 vehicles within the next 12 months. So, you know, the big turning point will be people seeing these vehicles for real, delivering their goods, passengers getting on and off buses within cities. So, you know, that's the future that we're looking forward to.
People are going to know your name.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week Microsoft launched the latest version of its operating system, Windows 11, as a free upgrade to Windows 10 users. Media regulator Ofcom said it would take appropriate measures to protect users of sites like TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch from harmful content. And actor William Shatner is to boldly go where some people have gone before. Yes, Star Trek's Captain Kirk is set to journey into space next week with Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. It was also the week that, and you may have noticed this, WhatsApp, Facebook and Instagram were all down for about 6 hours on Monday, affecting over 3.5 billion people. This was apparently caused by configuration changes on the backbone routers. Ah, of course. And Twitter got a lot of love during that time. This was all during the same week the Facebook whistleblower revealed herself. Former employee Frances Haugen testified at an internet safety hearing on Capitol Hill, saying the social network harms children's mental health, stokes division and damages democracy. Facebook has rejected Haugen's claims. And finally, we may never lose the TV remote again. Researchers at MIT have created R-Fusion, a robotic arm that retrieves objects. With an onboard camera and antenna, it can recognise lost items both by look and the attached RFID tag, moving other stuff out of the way to find it. I wonder if it tidies up afterwards.
Right, self-driving cars aren't a common thing yet, and one of the main reasons is because of concerns about safety. Although saying that, 90% of accidents today are due to human error. But today, one car manufacturer is using data to help make roads a little bit safer whilst humans are still behind the wheel. And they're doing that by using sensors to track dangerous hotspots. This is a proportional integral derivative controller, PID for short. They're more commonly known as black boxes and are being used today for something other than insurance purposes. Yay! Ford are working with Vivacity Labs, using these PIDs in their cars to monitor my driving in order to assess an area's road safety. My speed, acceleration, rate and harshness of braking, steering, all of these are being measured to see how I react along a route and predict any near misses that I have with other vehicles or people. And when enough cars behave erratically in an area, sensors are placed on lampposts to gather more data, which we'll see later. But as a driver right now, I had a bit of a problem with the black box existing. If I want to misbehave slightly or go a little bit faster, I'm just going to be constantly wondering, what is it picking up? Is this going to, bite me in the butt later? I'm not giving them a true reflection of myself as I'm driving. So is that the data they want? Right, we've reached Vivacity's HQ, where the data is being processed. Now, remember those sensors we passed along the way? Here's a visualization of what the company sees. It's all blurred and anonymized, so no one is identified. But these lines represent the cyclists, pedestrians, and cars in a spot. And you can see how they get into some potentially harmful situations as they cross each other, or as an area gets busier. So they'll take this data and they'll present it to the local council to act on it.
If you sent somebody out to watch what was happening, even for 5 or 6 hours, which would be quite an expensive thing to do, they won't necessarily see the root cause. At this particular scenario, there's 1.5 minutes worth of clips from that 1.5 hour that we've condensed this down to. Actually, that person's time, rather than spending an hour and a half at the roadside, if they watched an hour and a half of condensed clips from a sensor, they'll get a much better understanding of what is the problem at this particular location.
Peter also told me that councils will probably take a while to know how to process this data and execute plans based on it. But it's not the only stumbling block.
Yeah, I think on the project that we've been collaborating with Ford, we actually found it quite difficult to get people to agree to put a PID in their car, even if we paid them. So if we turned around and offered somebody money, they were still going, oh no, I don't want that.
As I mentioned before, I was so aware of being tracked, my driving being measured, so it doesn't surprise me that they struggled to get volunteers, managing only 200 in the whole country. But with more modern cars having modems anyway to connect to the internet, is being tracked actually something I had to be worried about?
The actual act of putting the PID in is obviously not the end solution, that's just for this research project. And all our analysis isn't really looking at the individual, it's looking at the aggregated level data.
So then any other data that it picks up isn't really anything that can be used against the driver, is that right?
Oh, yeah, no, we don't intend to do that. We clearly spelled out in the consent that it's all about this road safety project, trying to find that win-win situation where the city gets something, the consumer gets something, and Ford gets something.
So whether it's the public or councils getting used to the idea, it'll probably take some time before this data starts to make a big difference. But until then, getting more connected seems like a good way of driving forward.
Sorry, what? Hello?
I said, have you ever been in a situation where you're in public and you want to make a private phone call that you don't want anyone to overhear?
Oh yes, like when you're on a train and you feel like everything's gone quiet, but actually no one's probably interested in your conversation anyway.
Well, that says maybe, but just in case it really is private, then you should try this. This is Hush Me. It's a Bluetooth headset and speaker that connects to your phone, and it offers you some privacy. Now, you do have to talk relatively quietly, but I think you'll agree that it really does muffle my voice to everyone else in the room.
Well, yes, you do kind of sound like you're mumbling through it, I guess, but it also draws rather a lot of attention to you.
This is true. Unlike you, what's going on there?
Yes, I know, we do both look slightly ridiculous. This is the Respire Personal Air Purifier. So the idea is it can suck in up to 55 litres of air per minute. It cleans it with a UVC light, then pushes the air back out again, so the wearer gets plenty of clean air in here. If you're in a busy place, you have this visor on and, well, it's sort of like walking around wearing an air conditioning unit. That's how it feels anyway, especially when you turn it up. Listen to this.
Buying all this stuff isn't good for the planet though. A new EU ruling on the standardising of adapters for new phones and other small devices is hoped to reduce waste. Yet when the devices themselves play up, getting them fixed rather than giving up on them can involve the manufacturer or an authorised service centre being able to charge whatever they want to fix them.
But there is something which is called the right to repair, which is gaining momentum in the US. And Cody Godwin has more from California.
This is just another day for 17-year-old Sam Mensimer. He's made a business out of fixing electronics, including laptops, mobiles, and even a coffee maker.
When I was 12, my dad dropped his phone while he was running. And he kind of came to me and was like, Sam, what do you think I should do here? And he said, can you help me go to the Apple store, making me an appointment? And I was like, no, I saw this on YouTube one day, that you can fix your own phone.
It's been 5 years since he fixed his dad's phone. He has since turned his parents' Washington, D.C. garage into his professional repair shop, where people across the country send him their devices to be fixed. But it's not always an easy fix. Many manufacturers don't provide the instructions or tools to independent repairers like Sam. And not having access to that information can make for a risky repair.
I took a pair of pointy tweezers and stuck them underneath the battery to pry up on it to release the adhesive that glues it into the frame. And it just goes psh, and like a bunch of smoke starts coming out of the battery. And if I had punctured it any further, it probably would have lit the table on fire. It's one of those things you do once and you'll never do it again. If I had had a repair manual that told me, use a playing card to go under the battery or a specific tool to go under the battery and it will release the adhesive without you using a pair of metal tweezers to poke the battery, it would have been fine.
Sam believes the access to this information is important and companies should be legally required to share it.
This is something a number of lawmakers in the US agree with. It's called the right to repair, and it proposes that consumers have more say in where they get their products fixed instead of just having to go to the manufacturer. And in 2021, more than half of the 50 states in the US proposed some form of this legislation, covering devices like your personal tech, from your mobile to your laptop, to medical devices, and even tractors.
So I decided to give repairing a try with a little bit of professional help. iFixit is a company that specializes in helping people around the world fix almost anything, from devices to apparel and loads of things in between. It took me about 10 minutes to replace a screen on an iPhone 12 Pro Max. As somebody who does very little handiwork, the repair was actually quite easy. It does take a lot of patience, a steady hand, and a suction cup that properly sticks, but overall it was quite straightforward. The company was founded by Kyle Wiens after he dropped his laptop while in university and struggled to find instructions on how to fix it.
I think everyone should be able to fix their things. As a matter of fact, I think access to the knowledge of how to repair things is a fundamental human right.
But don't these companies have a right to be like, you know what, we've made these devices, we should be the only ones who can safely repair them?
I don't see any reason that manufacturer has the right or ability to tell me what I can do with my product. If they wanted to limit what I could do with it, they shouldn't have sold it to me in the first place. They sold it to me. It's mine. They took my money. They didn't have to take my money. They took my money. I can take it apart and fix it if I want. If I want to throw it in the river, if I want to paint it pink, I can do that.
It's no surprise some of the companies making these products are the ones opposed to this legislation. Part of their argument is keeping their intellectual property confidential. Another part of their argument has to do with safety. Is the person who's fixing your product properly trained to do so? That worry, of course, goes away if it's being fixed by somebody that they have trained.
But it's not just about being able to repair a device. Many pro-right to repair people also want the option to extend the lifespan of their devices or reduce waste. One report said 53.6 million metric tons of electronic waste was generated around the world in 2019.
For every one device that I repair, it generates a little bit of waste, maybe a little bit of e-waste that gets, and a little bit of, plastic packaging for the part. Versus buying a new device, you're throwing out the whole device, metal, motherboard, the cameras, the battery, the screen, all of that has, it's a lot once you, when you add it all up, versus just, a battery or a screen.
Many states in the US have proposed right to repair bills over the past few years, but the only one that has passed was in Massachusetts in 2012. It targets automakers and requires them to provide the repair equipment to anyone. While it's only law in Massachusetts, the majority of car makers have opted to adhere to this policy in the remaining 49 states. To advocates like Sam and Kyle, it's a no-brainer why there should be similar legislation regarding our devices.
That was Cody, and it's pretty much time for us to wrap up for this week. But first, I have to ask, Lara, what's that wearing?
This week, I've cleaned a car, you've cleaned a shirt, and I am now cleaning my earbuds.
Oh, nice.
This is a prototype of the Cardlax earbud washer. The idea is you put a bit of alcohol spray on them first, pop them in here, close the lid, and then it spins around, cleaning them with the sponge.
Nice.
Once you've done that bit, you pick it up, and that final bit of wax can be got off with that brush. Look at that.
How delightful. And on that note, I think we should finish the show and do the final bit of housekeeping, which sounds like this.
As ever, you can find the team on social media on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at BBC Click.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.